we just got done watching Moon Knight. I was really not looking forward to the show. How about you?
Yeah, I had high hopes for it just because Ethan Hawke is one of my favorite all-time actors in cinema, but I wasn't as excited for it as many people were due to disappointment following the past Marvel shows.
Yeah, I think they're all pretty mediocre. Even the ones that started off really great. I think the one common problem we both share is like one it's either more of the same. It to me, I think the best way to explain these Marvel shows is like all the worst aspects of the movies are just crammed into 6 hours.
Yeah, that definitely plays a part in it. I think WandaVision, the thing that made the first episode so great was the fact that it was a throwback to basically early 60s sitcoms and had the I Love Lucy vibe, but they just threw that all out the window.
Yeah.
And we were stuck with back to our normal MCU stuff again.
Yeah, and they have a really underwhelming explanation as to like why those unique things that they said they were doing so different happened. Really.
Yeah, I don't want to slander the shows too much, but it's just the best way to sum it up is that they were all pretty forgettable in the end. I mean, there were great aspects in every one except Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I thought was the most disappointing. It didn't have anything for me that made it separate from the rest, but other than that, Moon Knight looks to be quite good so far. I'd say it has one of the strongest starts.
Yeah, this is probably the strongest start to a show. It's better, definitely. I know for a fact this is going to be better than Hawkeye. That's for sure. Because Hawkeye was probably my least favorite. I know you haven't seen What If, but What If is pretty horrendous too.
Yeah. Hawkeye, I watched Daredevil just recently, and originally I rated it a little bit higher, probably around 3 stars, 2.5. But then, as soon as I saw what they did to Kingpin and how much that actually affected the Charlie Cox Daredevil universe, and now that they're putting him in MCU, it just doesn't make any sense. It would be like if they made a PG-13 Punisher movie in the future.
Yeah.
Which I hope that doesn't happen.
I think it's a guarantee that they're going to butcher the Daredevil. I know it's not going to be horrible, but it's not going to be... I feel like Daredevil is like... That Netflix show is like the gold standard for the Marvel shows.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
I think MCU is quite a ways off from producing anything of that quality.
Oh, yeah. So, I guess enough about like what we feel about the Marvel shows in general. I have to be really honest. I wasn't expecting too much, but this is a really good start. I think I really like this episode. It's called Goldfish Problem, right? Or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah. It's really well done. I think a quick way of saying it is it's different. It looks great. I was not a big fan of how Marvel... filmmaking wise, it's not very special, but this is shot really well. There's a lot of like camera movement and like handheld shots that aren't distracting. I think Oscar Isaac is really good. I think he's he really gives that crazy vibes and stuff. Honestly, my only issue right now that's like a really jarring issue is I guess if I'm nitpicking, maybe like some of the dialogue isn't all that great. But the thing that's really bad is, I think the visual effects and the green screen stuff, especially in that truck chase, is horrendous.
Yeah, I can definitely see that for sure.
Yeah. What about you? What do you think of this episode?
I thought it was a very nice start. The main thing I think would be just the two lead performances, Ethan Hawke and Oscar Isaac. I'd say probably the most two experienced actors and who have been in the most high quality movies. Definitely just ranging from art house to big blockbusters, so they practically had it all. And personally, I knew nothing about Moon Knight, and I'm not going to pretend I did before this show came out. And the only thing I knew was after watching the trailer that he had a split personality disorder, and so I'm just really excited to see how they go into that. And Ethan Hawke, as we know, can play religious figures extremely well based on his 2017 performance in First Reform. So really excited just to see them two together, and hopefully they don't ruin an iconic actor as much as they treated Vincent D'Onofrio and Hawkeye.
Yeah, that's for sure. I really like Ethan Hawke's character, Arthur Harrow. I think that's his name. He's like this weird religious guy, and I don't know what they're gonna do with his character, but it seems interesting enough for me. I just hope they don't treat him like a cookie cutter Marvel villain. And I don't want them to want the fans and Marvel themselves using his weirdness as a scapegoat to say that he's like a memorable or a great villain. I just hope they do it right, because more than him being a great villain, it's Ethan Hawke. You don't waste an actor like that. And
definitely.
Yeah, and there wasn't really much action in this episode. So I guess we can't really say what the action is going to be like. The car chase itself, the truck chase that happens after that weird cult thing that he experiences, is good. It's just the green screen and like the visual effects are like really bad.
Yeah, I think that scene, it wasn't horrible in terms of the way it was shot. I think it was actually quite good. But
Yeah.
the most important thing was that I think we're focusing more on rather how he was experiencing it in the moment, and he had no knowledge of what was going on. And I just thought that the way that they put the shots and framed them in that specific order about how he switches from certain points to back to a point where he has no idea what's going on was quite perfect. And I think it really made us as in the audience feel just as confused as Oscar Isaac's character was. So that was definitely a plus. And I like the fact that they didn't tell us from the get-go what was going on. And we felt that in the previous Marvel shows that pretty much we knew what basically from the first episode was going to be shaping up for the rest of the series.
Yeah, like it kind of reminded me of WandaVision, where like the first few episodes you have no idea what's going on, like at all. It's but then like Wanda knew the answer, but you didn't. In this, what I like about it is that the fact that we're like even like how it's shot, it feels like it's from the eyes of Stephen Grant, which is his other personality apparently, and I think that, and then it makes you confused as to what's going on, and this whole episode just doesn't give you any answers, which I'm hopeful for, but at the same time, I mean, I can see a huge turnaround. I feel like could be another Loki situation where, like, I know I keep comparing to the other shows, but I can't help myself, where like it's really intriguing, and then they just rush the finale, and you just get this hollow experience. So, but in terms of this episode, let's just start, like, how about we just break down what happens, because this is a spoiler discussion. So we open with, I think, the best part of the episode, where he's like, breaking the glass in his shoes and then walking in and stuff. What'd you think of that? That was
Definitely
really weird.
A great touch. I mean, right away, something's off as soon as he puts the glass in his shoes and he's breaking it up. It definitely gave me a Mondo Kane vibe, which is a documentary from the 60s about just strange happenings around the world. And that is just something that you would expect from this character, even without knowing anything. Like, I knew nothing about the character of Arthur Harrow to begin with, and just from his vibe in the trailer, we didn't see any glimpse of the beginning of this episode or what he did regarding the glass, but you can tell that he's a seriously disturbed individual. I just like how that played into what he was doing to the character of Moon Knight in the whole episode.
Yeah. They don't give you a lot of answers either. He's like this weirdo, and then like after the second time you see him, he has like an army of like mercenaries basically with guns and stuff, and like he has a lot of followers who do some weird religious thing where like he holds their hand and then he sees like what their fate is and if it's like good or bad. And there's like one guy who like he has like a tattoo of like a scale. And then there's one guy like he holds and like reads his future or something, and it's green, and he lets him go. And then there's the other old lady who begs to see what it is, and it turns red, and it's like this imbalance, and then she just dies. So it's really weird.
Yeah, and I'm actually quite interested to see whether those people have something to do with the magic that the Egyptian god or goddess is putting them under, or he's just one of those individuals who's so good at putting people under a spell that they actually follow him for what he does with his manipulative behavior rather than the magic side of it. So I'm really curious to see how they expand on that.
Oh yeah. Also, it's just Oscar Isaac is so magnetic. I know I don't like using that word a lot. It's very, pretentious and like, oh look, he's, but I think this is like really cool. And there's a quote that Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke said where it's like a true character study. And honestly, I can see why they're saying that, because they really spend a lot of time with like his mannerisms and stuff, and it's really detailed. And I feel like the actors really, the writing, the screenplay is like making these characters really come alive and chew the scenery really. And so after that, like the whole episode is like this really disjointed thing in a good way, because this character has no idea what's going on. Like he doesn't know what day it is. He closes his eyes and he wakes up in a completely different day or completely different country, I think. I don't know what country that was he was in, but And it's done in a way where it's intriguing and it doesn't like outright confuse you. You just want to like learn what's up and stuff. And by the time you learn, it's actually like he just has a split personality disorder. It's like Split. You've seen Split. I haven't seen it yet. I've only seen the trailer. Do you think there's a lot of comparisons to that?
Yeah, I definitely think so in the way of his behavior. Obviously, he seems like a pretty mild-mannered person compared to the Beast in Split.
Yeah.
And I think he's somewhat aware. Obviously, by the end of the episode, when he looks in the mirror and he sees that, he tries to pretend to himself that what he's seeing isn't real, but it is real. That never really happens in Split because he thinks all 23 personalities are basically one person. So I'm definitely excited to see, because in the trailer they did mention that it was Indiana Jones meets Fight Club, so we'll see what actually happens regarding if his other personality actually becomes a whole separate person like in Fight Club. I think that'll be a cool approach to take. But either way, I'm pretty sure they do have lots of room to wrap it up well.
Yeah, Fight Club, which I don't. It's a movie I don't shut up about. It's like in my top 20, and it does have a lot of things, because in Fight Club, like even the narrator like doesn't know when he's in control of Tyler Durden, and they delve in really deep. And honestly, like I can see the Fight Club comparisons. It's like really cool. I think it's interesting that how they're doing that. The Indiana Jones thing, everyone likes to say that whenever they go to like Egypt or it's like a globe-trotting adventure. So that might be interesting. My only concern, I have many concerns because of like the track record, but if I was excluding the track record of Marvel's shows, my only concern is the action and the visual effects, because the visual effects aren't great. Even in the clips that they released, the creature stuff is not very good. And it's Marvel, and this show, I told you, remember we were watching Game of Thrones earlier, like these shows have like the same, if not even significantly higher budget than those Game of Thrones shows. And Game of Thrones CGI is like impeccable, and we don't see the money on the screen. But I will say this, I think this is like really well shot. I think this is the best looking Marvel show
for sure
since Loki. I think Loki's a good looking show too.
Yeah. I really liked how everything regarding Moon Knight, especially the reveal at the end, wasn't rushed. It felt like, of course, they had to cut it off at that exact moment to make sure everyone watches episode 2. But right. I think some people might have expected to see him earlier. And I thought one other thing that was really good that I think I'm willing to excuse the bad CGI in this case, which I didn't think was awful. Probably not as much as Tharun did. But if the character study, as what they refer to in the trailer, is strong enough, I'm willing to excuse mediocre effects or fighting, which I never really expected from the beginning in Marvel. And one thing that I am rather harsh on for Marvel movies compared to other huge blockbusters is the comedy, about how, especially in No Way Home, the just constant every 10-15 minutes, the joking back and forth. And I think in this show, it actually makes the most sense for him to joke around, because he literally doesn't know what's going on, and he has that entire British witty banter style of talking, which I totally love, and I think it's perfect in this case. So hopefully they don't overdo it, especially in the moments where it's going to get extremely climactic, when he's actually, I assume, what's the final battle going to be with Arthur Harrow, and they should just leave the comedy out of it in those super tense moments. So I'm hoping so far that they can balance it just perfectly, unlike some of the other MCU additions in the past. Yeah,
I think the fact that you mentioned the humor, which is a huge issue with the Marvel movies and any Marvel-related content, the comedy, you notice, like, I laughed multiple times during this. And it's mostly, like, how, like, bumbling and weird Oscar Isaac's character is in the show. Even though we saw the clip of him like trying to like close the elevator because he sees some giant Egyptian god coming towards him, but it ends up being like some old lady. It's still really funny, like the way he acts and stuff, and how the lady gets all freaked out too. And also like I really liked when he, like, that one lady asks him out and he has no idea that they had plans. And then, like, he shows up to dinner, and then and then it's like they were meant to meet on Friday, but then it's like Sunday, And then like there was one thing that he said like made me like laugh. It's like he asked the waiter what day it is, and he's like, it's Sunday, like his girlfriend said, and he's just like, no.
Yeah, the way he delivers the line, it is pretty perfect.
Yeah.
Going back on that, adding on to it, I think it's perfect that when he jumps in time, so are we.
Yeah.
It's just, it makes everything spot on with the character, and for people like me who knew nothing about Moon Knight prior to playing the Lego Marvel games when I was a kid, I think it's a brilliant addition, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the series. I think it can shape up to be easily the best one. I hope it's not a Loki where they kind of just make the ending really underwhelming, because the thing about these Marvel shows is that they're so time constrained. They're always like 270 minutes or 300 minutes. I literally think that if they just let them free roam and spend as much time as they want on each episode, like how we're just watching Game of Thrones now, every episode varies sometimes from 5 minutes to 20 minutes even in length. So I think if they added that could possibly give them another avenue to explore in terms of not being so restrained with what they're doing every episode.
Oh yeah. I think they need to free up and let the filmmakers do. And the thing is, if you look at Marvel, like, when they hire directors and stuff, it's like lesser known stuff, and then people like to like commend the fact that they're not grabbing like high profile directors, but sometimes it feels like they're just doing that to take advantage of them, not let them do what they want. But then other cases they do, and I feel like here, like, the writing and the directing has flavor and like personality to it. I do think that, and that's a good thing. I also thought that about Loki, but I didn't about and WandaVision, but the other shows probably not. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what else they do. But I'm gonna keep my expectations just the same as I did before, because I don't want to get my hopes up and then see the show end up like the other ones.
Agreed. Yeah. One thing I do have a little bit more hopes on is that the directorial style does look like there's some artistry behind it. And I feel like Shane with Chloe Zhao is a brilliant director, and No Man's Land, the writer, and Songs My Brothers Taught Me are all brilliant films. They're only small, brief glimpses in Eternals where you can tell it's actually her. Right. And it's her specific style of bringing the landscape and merging it with the people and making it just a perfect balance between them, and the visuals and just the beauty of it all makes it her movie. And I just feel like that didn't happen in Eternals, with the exception of a couple of shots. And with this one, you can really tell that the atmosphere plays a huge part in the story overall.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I agree. So, any other points you wanted to add? Any specifics? Nothing really happens in this episode, and then until we barely talked about like what finally happened. So Arthur Harrow is like after Oscar Isaac because his other persona, which is Mark Spector, has like some medallion artifact thing.
Scarab,
yeah, Scarab, and then by the end of this episode, like, Arthur Harrow catches on and notices that this guy has issues and he doesn't know what he's talking about. So like he Oscar Isaac's like Stephen Grant character works at a museum, and like this monster thing chases him, and the show and episode ends with him finally turning into Moon Knight, letting Tyler Durden take control of his body, and then beats up the monster, and then that one clip that everyone, I hope that's not the thing Feige was talking about where he's just wailing on somebody. Remember that quote he said? I hope that's not it.
Yeah, I mean, because we expect that, obviously, to defeat the evil monster.
Right, yeah. I mean, it wasn't like some action. It was mostly like off screen. Mm-hmm. I like his suit. It looks cool.
It does look very nice,
yeah. Also, another thing, there's like quite a lot of blood in this episode.
Yeah, especially when they did the quick cut and you see the blood all over his fingers and the scarab. Like, you know what they're implying there. I was like, wow, that's quite straight out there for a Marvel show. We haven't really seen that much.
That's crazy because, I felt like blood. I remember when we were watching Hawkeye together and they show that one flashback scene where Ronin's like cutting down like the tracksuit mafia, and there's like blood, and I was like, oh, that exists in the Marvel shows.
I mean, just right after the Batman comes out, you can see how dark they can go and really push that PG-13 rating. And
exactly.
For TV, it's 14, so you have a little bit more leeway, and I think you've got to take advantage of that.
I think you should, exactly. There's a ton of blood.
Right.
Like there's one they showed a head wound, a bullet wound on a guy's head, in the truck. Remember?
Right.
Yeah, which was
that
great.
lingered on it for a couple of seconds as well.
Yeah.
You don't normally see that.
And like they do stuff like this, and then recently, apparently, it just happened that there was like a shot of a character that dies in Falcon and the Winter Soldier that had a bunch of blood, but then Disney censored it, and then people found out because they accidentally inserted that clip in.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, I just heard about it. It happened today. They do stuff like this, but then if you see the clip, which I know you haven't seen, there's like just as much as blood as there is in this show, which is weird.
Yeah, I think probably the most brutal moment in any of the other shows is when John Walker used his shield to beat up the other guy in that scene. That was pretty brutal.
Yeah, and then they edited it in a horrendous way where it's like, oh, it's not as bad as you think, but yeah, the editing part of it ruins it. But yeah, that's probably the most violent thing that's happened in the shows. Yeah. So I guess, is there any other things you want to say?
Last thing to add from me is that I thought it was pretty cool that Arthur Harrow, he specifically says Stephen Grant from the gift shop. So I think might have a connection, this would be my prediction for the future episode, that he has something to do with like an Egyptian god where he comes from the past, because he thought like it would be another title. That's the way he was implying it as he says it, like a gift shop is some like mystical place.
Right.
So he's not really adapted to the times, obviously, if he didn't know what a gift shop was. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said that when addressing his name. So that's just one cool thing that I thought they added in there. I don't know if it has any significance. We'll find out in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we'll find out. I mean, at least it's not like another Mephisto, theory that you cooked up. But yeah, I know you don't want to do like a final score, but I just want to do this so I guess people can like have like that one thing that they can grasp and see like how I'm feeling. It's like an 8 out of 10. This episode, I would say, if I were to rate it. I just do this so I can have like something. It's just the best way to like for me to realize how I feel about it, and like other people too. So yeah, it's like an 8 out of 10. It's really good. It's really good.
Definitely heading in a positive direction.
Oh yeah.
I think our ratings will be more justified as we move along.
Oh yeah.
See more of the episodes.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of rating each episode, but it's just a way to say how I'm feeling.
Definitely, yeah.
But yeah, I had a great time, and look forward to. We're gonna be doing this episodically, right? So I'm excited for episode 2. All right, thanks for watching.